So we are getting into our second third, and the first third was delightful. It's a very medium-bodied flavor. It's not like the Bolivar, like this big full-bodied Russia flavor. Medium-bodied, but very good flavor nonetheless. Like I said before, earthy, a bit spicy, some hints of leather, and a bit of a sour note that starts creeping in as you get more toward the center of the cigar, giving you that nice Cuban twang, but in a very deep center of the tongue kind of way. Some floral notes, and very smooth, like a breeze through the nose, floral, woody notes through the nose, little hints of cedar here and there. Overall, all of that wrapped around a really just delicious flavor of meaty Cuban tobacco. Really, really nice cigar so far. Very smooth, medium bodied. Very, very good. And right away I can tell you though, as I'm entering the second third here, I already detect a bit of a beef up in flavor. It's getting even deeper, and that meatiness is starting to swell, and it's also getting a bit nutty. Definitely a bit nutty and a bit creamy. Very, very nice progression starting to happen here. We're going to see what our second third is like. Yeah. Nice progression starting to happen here. It's suddenly becoming very creamy and meaty. Creamy, meaty, nutty. Those are the words I can describe it. Hints of leather, hints of spice. Very nice. Still medium. A lot of flavor, but medium flavor. It has some similarities to the Bolivar in a way, but the Bolivar is just so much more like, just like dumping flavor, pallets of flavor onto your tongue. But I would say that this cigar is more refined, not less flavorful, more refined in a way. It has that flavor, but it's just, easy does it, and it's starting to develop very nicely. So as we get into our second third, we will be going over some viewer emails. But before I do, I just forgot one thing to leave out in history. A few little interesting facts. Prior to the revolution, there were only 5 standard production sizes available. 5. That's it. You believe that shit? So, all the others were introduced pretty much from 1969 on. And as far as I can do by myself real quickly, I counted that there are 15 shapes in the standard line, 19 if you include the open series. But let's even staying away from that, because there are 15 shapes in the standard line. You got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the Especial 1 and 2, a Monte Tubo, which is a different size. It's not like a number 2 and a Tubo. It's a totally different size. Petite Tubos, again, totally different size. The Monte A, the Petite number 2, the Edmundo, the Double Edmundo, the Petite Edmundo, and Joyitas. So those are your 15 shapes, of which, like I said, from 1969 on, during the 70s and 80s, the Especial 1 and 2, the Monte A, the Petite Tubos, and the Joyitas were introduced. And later on, not until 2004, was the Edmundo introduced, followed of course later on by the Petite Edmundo and the Double Edmundo. So that's pretty interesting stuff. The Edmundo, by the way, is named for the main character of the book, The Count of Montecristo, Edmundo Dantes. So that's another interesting 15 fact. Shapes. And once you start counting limitadas and grand reserves and all that, forget it. You're way. And if you count the open, you're up to 19. If you count limitadas, you probably get right up to about 25, 26. And then if you put grand reserves in, you probably end up with 30 shapes, a good 30 different cigars. But from the standard line, to go from after the whole, embargo and Cuban Revolution, for a standard line to go from 5 shapes to 15 is pretty impressive. It probably has a lot to do with making up for a lot of the vitolas that were lost from all the other brands being abandoned as well. So delicious, absolutely delicious. Flavor is opening up even more. I would say it's getting a little more medium full, but still not full flavored, still more medium. I just want to start off by saying, or finishing, the last segment of this episode regarding the embargo, that if it were ever to be lifted, there would probably be a long period, that maybe even years, before we even saw Cuban cigars come into American humidors, unless they decided we want to make money now, and they made a whole bunch of new brands that don't have duplicate names. Because as soon as the embargo is lifted and Cuba Tobacco thinks, all right, we can ship to America now, we're going to put these into American humidors, General Cigar is going to go, no you're not, and so is Altadis. And you think, well, maybe they won't put them into humidors. Maybe now it'll just be legal to ship. You can order them from Cuba. But even then, now that the embargo's out of the way, we have a big problem, because we have another brand with the same name, with the same picture, with the same logo, and in our society, that's counterfeiting. That you can't have that, no matter what country you're in. If it's being shipped through America, imported to America, it cannot mimic a brand that already exists. Okay? So, at that point, you'll have a very interesting bunch of court cases, because what it all comes down to will be whether you believe in capitalism or government-controlled society. In the sense that, okay, do you believe if you create something, you're the owner of that? The owner of that idea, the owner of that product? Or do you believe that you create something and the government has the right to take that idea from you and do as it will with it? You understand? Because that's exactly what happened when, after the revolution, the Cuban government nationalized the tobacco industry. Everything then belonged to, and still does, belongs to them. They own the brands. All right? It also changes the way, a lot of people, and a lot of guys I run into in humidors who sell cigars, and, I'll always kind of be like, get that question around, see how they feel about it. Be like, hey, what about Montecristo? Some of them go, oh, great cigar. They're just trying to sell it or whatever. It is a good cigar. It's a Dominican cigar. It's a good cigar. And then you have a lot of guys who will be like, oh, man, you know what? I don't mess with Dominican Montecristo. It's not the real thing. I don't mess with them either. I like to get the Cuban Montecristo because that's what a Montecristo was meant to be. However, it is wrong to say, no, that's not the real Montecristo. That's just some brand Altadis owns. The truth is, as we stated before, the people who came over, fled from the revolution, like our friend Menendez here for the Montecristo, that's capitalism. He came over and decided he wanted to redo his cigar. It was his idea. Montecristo was his idea. It was his cigar. So where is the real Montecristo really? In blend, it's still in Cuba. But in creation and idea-wise, and the whole being of the brand, it's actually right here in our humidors. So it's a very interesting thing to me to look at that situation. And if you look at it in the way that I'm shedding light on it, it becomes a little more complicated than just lifting the embargo, you see? So I just don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. It definitely wouldn't happen until they had ready. Maybe they would have to make some prearranged plan on exactly what they're going to do, who's going to own what, who's going to be able to sell what where, and how the whole thing's going to work. Okay, now we're getting into the thick of it. And I'm excited to do this part because I like talking about it. And it gets me going, and I like that feeling. Not that all the other stuff wasn't interesting. We're here with the Monte 2, legendary cigar. So far this one is doing absolutely fantastic. Talked about some brand history, talked about the embargo, and I don't know why this particular cigar brought up that issue, because we smoked plenty of Cubans before it. I guess it's just because of the popularity of it and, you know, just the originality of it. You know, not that it's the oldest brand. We learned obviously that it's not, but there's just something about hearing that. You know, the Cuban Montecristo No.2 just brings all other cigars into light. You know, it's just that kind of cigar. But anyway, we said we're going to talk about the vendor list and the bad list and viewer emails, and it's kind of going to be a mishmash of everything because I want to kind of lead in and to bring people up to date. How we got here was because of a few things. Number one, in our Romeo and Juliet episode, we talk about fake sites and ways to spot them, what to look out for, and it was mostly in response to a viewer who had questions about an order he placed with a site called Big Smokers Online. So I did some research on Big Smokers. Took me about 5 seconds. Basically, it entailed me plugging in the URL and seeing boxes of Cohiba Robustos and Esplendidos and Siglo 6s for $100. And bang, big fake stamp. Fake, that's all. No other proof needed. There is no such thing. I don't care how many fucking forums or places you go and you find whoever, some screen name, because that's all it is. You don't know who's on the other end, no matter who they say they are, saying, oh, there's such a thing as a $100 box. It all has to do with the taxes and the rates in Cuba and how much you can actually get them for, and other vendors are so expensive because the prices are overblown. Cuban cigars really aren't that expensive. Bullshit. Bullshit. Okay? And that's one part of it. I want to read very quickly an email that came in that then brought my attention to a site called Duty Free Cuban Cigars, not a fake site by any means. The name of the site is like, okay, yeah, but it's a good site, and I know the guy behind it. Not really no, but it's one of the sites that the only reason I don't recommend for the most part is that I've only placed one order, and I'm really not going to base everything on that one order. I'll have to order some more cigars in the future. So, like I tell a lot of people, I do not recommend a site just because I ordered and they were good. I have to place multiple orders. They have to be all good. It has to be standard cigars as well as special cigars. A lot of things have to happen before I'm going to put my name onto it and say this is okay. The last thing I need is people coming back, Joe, you sent me to a fake fucking site, these cigars suck. I don't want that to happen. I'm sure you understand. Otherwise, the list we're going to have here would be a lot longer. But anyway, another viewer, after that whole episode, and people were commenting and saying great things and whatever, one of our viewers, Paul, sent in a message, and it says, I looked on a site, ever heard of a site called Duty Free Cuban Cigars? They post a list of sites they say are selling fakes. One site is a vendor you are familiar with. Would like to hear your comments. So, of course, right away, I got to be like, oh, what the fuck is he talking about? I got to see what's going on here. And honestly, even though I've been to Duty Free Cuban Cigars and ordered from them, I never saw that he had this little section there. And it is actually a little hard to find this section unless you know exactly where to look for it. I'll post the URL at the bottom of the screen so you can all see it. But basically, you know, and vendors don't usually do this. You know, I guess this guy, he's as angry as I am about counterfeiters. They're stealing his business. He wants people to know the truth, whatever. So he has a little place on his site where he posted. A lot of sites have something that says, this is what to look out for. But nobody really gives you a list of known bad sites. So the list I'm going to reveal of known bad sites right now is according to Duty Free Cuban Cigars. I agree with him on some of those because of certain things I see, but I can't say, you know, I know for sure that all of these, because I've never ordered from them or anything. Some of them I know for sure, though, simply because the prices are just way too fucking low. And once Paul said this, I went over to Duty Free Cuban Cigars, and I saw that he offers a list of these sites, and he also offers a bunch of things to look out for when shopping on sites, things that point to, signs rather, that point to this is being a fake site, you know. Oh, that is smoking something lovely right now. Getting very floral, peppery, a little leathery, very good. Okay, so his list of reasons goes, cheap prices with added discounts. That's number one. That's number one. And by cheap prices, we mean some of these are fucking ridiculous. You know, like $100 box of Cohibas. And the added discounts, we'll see that in another email later, but that's funny too. They do not carry Cuban cigars in tubos or 3x5 packs. Now the rest of the reasons here, after the cheap prices, the rest of the reasons don't automatically exclude a site. One of them or two of them alone don't mean a site is fake. There are sites out there, like Ho Cuban Cigars, for instance. Even Ho sells tubos, I believe. You know, they don't really carry any regionals. Once in a while they have a box of this or that, but that's not the kind of site they are. But they are indeed 100% legit. Do not carry Cuban cigars in tubos 3x5 packs. No cigarillo selections, because they're not, you know, and they're difficult to roll if you don't know how to roll a proper cigarillo without making a plug piece of shit. Offer limitada cigars from 2001 to 2006. These are non-existent on the internet anymore. Impossible to find. Their limitadas are limited. They're limited. People buy them up and then they are gone forever. The most you'll ever find one for properly is on an auction site, say, maybe Cigar One's auction section, for $1,000 for a box that used to be $300. That's what you're going to pay. You're not going to find a box of Cohiba Limitada, Edition Limitada 2001, you know, or Romeo 2003 or whatever, for fucking peanuts. For some reason, and I guess it's because of all, like you saw the box of Metal de Oro, like a lot of these regional editions are very difficult to copy. The limitadas are really not, you know. It's just a matter of, and I guess the regionals wouldn't be that hard either. I don't know why they don't. Maybe it's just too time consuming, you know, especially with the serial numbers and everything. You would start to see duplicates right away, because if there's only 1,200 made of a certain box, and all of a sudden like 3 people have number 2 because people talk online. And anyway, limitadas they do a lot of fakes of. If you go to justfakes.com, they sell bands, fake bands of edition limitadas for whatever year you want. You know, so you just get the band, you get the corresponding edition limitada year, you put them together on a piece of shit, and bang, you have a fake limitada cigar. Offer limitada cigars from 2001, 2006. Still offer discounted brands. Oh, sorry, still offer discontinued brands. You gotta know your shit, do your homework. Partygis Churchill Deluxe, for instance. There is none anymore. Discontinued brand. For information regarding what brands are on the market now and what Vitolas have been discontinued, do your homework by studying CubanCigarWebsite.com. He has every brand, all 27 brands, and any one of those brands you click, he's going to give you at top all the ones that are in production now, and then at some point there'll be a cutoff, and it'll be all the Vitolas that used to be in the original line but have been discontinued for one reason or another, and then toward the bottom starts to get into all the limitadas, regionals, whichever corresponds with that brand. Do your homework. So right away, if I went on a site, beside that, some of these are really good actually, if I went on a site and beside cheap prices, let's say the prices weren't that cheap, maybe they were iffy, but enough to say, okay, that might be true, and I saw, but I'm browsing and all of a sudden I see a box of Partygis Churchill Deluxe, or I see an edition limitada 2001, and they want, like, you know, the regular going price that it used to be. Forget it. Never have a selection of regional editions. That's another one. Never have smaller gauge smokes. Quintero and Quintero, La Flor de Cano, Fonseca, Jose L. Piedra. Smokes that most people don't buy, that aren't going to make a lot of money. Smokes that 3 of these brands, La Flor de Canos, Quinteros, Fonseca is long filler, but the point is that, I mean, how many people viewing right now have bought a box of Fonseca? You know, I've bought a lot of Cuban cigars and I haven't. You know, I want to one day. I want to, you know, I've tried one here and there. They're usually very mild, you know. And that's his list. You know, so that's his list of things to look out for. Basically, I said some of the same things, but I had a few additions when I did mine in the Romeo episode, Short Churchill episode. I said other things to look out for: similarities in cigar descriptions. The cigar descriptions will completely suck, and everyone will sound the same just about. Cigar descriptions that, to a seasoned smoker, make no sense. They just sound like bullshit. You'll know if you've read enough, you know, cigar aficionados, seen how cigars are described, or even know how cigars taste. You'll know they're bullshit. Tons of grammatical errors in the descriptions is another dead giveaway. Professional vendor sites, they have their sites beautiful. Even in a foreign language, you translate to English, the site is beautiful, you know? So there's that. No affiliation with Habanos SA. Sometimes it's difficult to determine because they can always just put the logo on their site regardless. Not to judge a site as a book by its cover. Great looking site does not mean it's a good site. A shitty looking site does not mean it's a fake site. The fact that a lot of these sites look exactly the same. Very, 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 very similar. Go to Big Smokers Online and then go to finestcigars.com. Not Finest Cuban Cigars, that's a real site. We'll get into that later too. Go to finestcigars.com, that's a fake site. Finestcigars.com, fake site. Big Smokers Online, fake site. Both sites look almost practically identical in construction and format. That's another one of mine. Repeat descriptions of cigars. Oh, here's another one I like. Pictures of hot chicks, like solocigars.com, you know, or these, you know, obviously aimed at the American market based on what Europeans think of us, or, you know, these people are wherever. Some of them come out of Argentina, Cayman Islands. You know, they see a beer commercial and think like that's what Americans will buy anything if they see a chick with her boobs hanging out. You know, so, you know, it's almost laughable.